Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're going deep into the digital jungle.
Ooh, like that.
Yeah, it's getting pretty wild out there.
It is, it is.
We've got a whole stack of recent cybersecurity news here, detailing some pretty alarming stuff. Breaches, vulnerabilities, you name it.
Yeah, and the attack techniques are getting really, really creative.
It's like we're going to need a whole survival guide just to navigate the internet safely these days.
That's exactly what we're here for. We'll break down the most important info so you can keep your data safe from those cyber predators.
Love it. Okay, so first things first, this report I saw about a DDoS attack that hit a record-breaking 4.2 terabits per second.
Yeah, I saw one too.
I mean, 4.2, that's a 55% increase from last year.
It's crazy.
What is fueling this kind of exponential growth?
Well, a couple things. One is botnets. They're getting more and more accessible, unfortunately.
Botnets, remind me what those are again.
Basically, networks of compromised computers that hackers can hijack to carry out these attacks.
So like an army of digital zombies all controlled remotely.
Exactly. And the bigger the botnet, the more damage it can inflict.
So someone out there is essentially renting out these armies of zombie computers.
You got it. And the other factor is nation-state actors. They've got the resources and the sophisticated tools to really do some damage.
That's a scary thought. It's almost like even keeping your systems patched isn't enough anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
Like with that whole Windows downgrade attack.
Yeah, that's a sneaky one. Basically, even if you've patched everything, attackers have found a way to manipulate the Windows update process itself.
They can trick it into what? Downgrading system components?
Exactly. Bringing back vulnerabilities you thought were long gone.
So you could be doing everything right and still be at risk.
It's a good illustration of why we need layered security.
Layered security, got it. Like wearing a raincoat and carrying an umbrella, right?
Exactly.
And speaking of evolving threats, it feels like ransomware is becoming the weapon of choice these days.
It is. And it's a pretty lucrative business, unfortunately. We're seeing groups like Fog and Akira going after vulnerabilities in sonic wall VPNs.
Sonic wall VPNs, what are those?
They're a way to create secure connections, but they're not foolproof, especially if you're not keeping them updated. Anyway, what's remarkable about Fog and Akira is how fast they are.
Fast? Like how fast are we talking?
I'm talking intrusion to full encryption in just 2 hours.
2 hours? Wow. That's terrifying.
They go right for the virtual machines and backups, where all the sensitive data lives.
It's like snatching the crown jewels before anyone even realizes the alarm's gone off.
Exactly.
Okay, so Fog and Akira, super fast and scary. What other ransomware groups are out there?
Well, there's Black Basta. They're using a totally different approach, though.
Oh, how so?
They're impersonating IT support on Microsoft Teams.
Microsoft Teams? Really?
Yep. They trick people into giving up their credentials or installing malware.
So even platforms like Teams can be exploited. Wow.
It really highlights how human trust is often the weakest link. We're conditioned to trust people who seem like they're in a position of authority, especially in our own IT departments.
It's like those fake tech support scams, but on steroids.
Exactly. And unfortunately, we're seeing real-world consequences of these attacks in massive data breaches.
Yeah, there have been some big ones in the news lately, haven't there?
Oh, yeah. The American Water Works investigation, they're looking at a potential impact of 14 million customers.
14 million? That's insane. What kind of data was exposed?
We don't know all the details yet, but that's a staggering number of people who could be affected.
And then there was 1 point patient care?
Right. Nearly 800,000 individuals impacted in that one. Medical records, social security numbers, you name it.
That's the kind of stuff that can really ruin lives.
No kidding. And then there's the claim about Aspen Healthcare Services.
Aspen Healthcare Services, fill me in.
They're saying it could involve over 1,500 medical records.
Man, it feels like no industry is immune.
It's a wake-up call for sure. Robust data security is no longer optional. It's essential.
Agreed. So we've got sophisticated DDoS attacks, sneaky ransomware tactics, and these huge data breaches. It's like vulnerabilities are everywhere you look.
They are, which is why it's so important to stay informed and proactive. Awareness is really our first line of defense in this digital jungle.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly. And it's not just consumer software we need to worry about.
What do you mean?
Well, we're seeing critical infrastructure becoming a bigger and bigger target.
Critical infrastructure, like what?
Power grids, water treatment plants, manufacturing facilities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, those vulnerabilities they found in Siemens and Schneider Electric products.
I read about that. Pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, because those systems control all sorts of essential services. the impact of an attack could be huge.
It's like the whole world's running on software these days,
It is, and these systems are all interconnected too, so a vulnerability in one component can have a ripple effect.
bringing down everything else.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue anymore, it's a societal issue.
You're right. So, I mean, for those of us who aren't ready to live off the grid, what can we actually do to protect ourselves?
That's the question, isn't it? Well, first and foremost, we need to be smart about our passwords,
Okay, so passwords. Always a good place to start.
right? But you'd be surprised how many people still use weak or easily guessable passwords.
I've definitely been guilty of that in the past.
I think we all have at some point.
But I started using a password manager a while back, and that's been a game changer.
Password managers are great. They can generate strong, unique passwords for all your accounts and store them securely.
So you don't have to try to remember a million different ones.
Exactly. And speaking of strong security, let's not forget multi-factor authentication.
Oh yeah, that's important.
It really is. Think of it like adding a deadbolt to your digital door.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Even if someone gets your key, they still can't get in without that second factor.
Usually a code sent to your phone or email, right?
Right. So strong passwords, multi-factor authentication. What else? Oh, think before you click.
That's a classic.
But it's so important. You got to be cautious about links in emails, social media messages, or websites you don't recognize.
Yeah, those phishing scams are getting pretty sophisticated.
They are. Attackers getting really good at creating fake emails and websites that look totally legit.
Trying to trick you into giving up your info.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
always hover over a link before you click it to see where it's really going.
And if you're ever unsure, just don't click at all.
Better safe than sorry. It's like in the jungle, right? Don't click on any suspicious-looking plants.
Could be a Venus flytrap.
Exactly. And be mindful of where you're browsing online. Stick to reputable websites.
Avoid the dark corners of the internet.
Right. You wouldn't wander off the trail in a real jungle, would you?
Probably not a good idea.
Nope. Okay, what else? Software updates.
Those are important, right?
Absolutely essential. They're like patching up holes in your tent to keep the bugs out.
So no more ignoring those update notifications.
No more procrastinating. Update everything as soon as those updates are available. Operating system, apps, browser, you name it.
Okay, got it. Update everything.
It's one of the simplest but most effective things you can do.
Makes sense. What about antivirus software? Is that still a thing?
It is. Think of it as having a guard dog patrolling your digital perimeter.
Okay, so we've got strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, we're clicking cautiously, updating our software, and we've got a guard dog. That's a pretty good defense, right?
It's a solid start for sure,
Yeah.
especially for individual users. But for businesses, the stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah, they've got way more to lose. Customer data, financial information, intellectual property.
Right. They're a much bigger target. So for organizations, it's not enough to just focus on individual security practices.
What else do they need to do?
They need a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. Things like security audits, vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, and incident response planning.
So like a whole security system for their entire digital infrastructure?
Exactly. And just like any security system, it needs to be multi-layered and constantly updated.
Because the bad guys are always coming up with new tricks.
That's right. It's an arms race.
So what are some key elements of a good cybersecurity strategy for businesses?
Well, first off, strong access controls. Who has access to what data? And multi-factor authentication for all sensitive systems.
Got it. Like different levels of security clearance.
Exactly. And employee training is huge. People are often the weakest link
They click on things they shouldn't.
all the time. So you need to educate employees about cybersecurity best practices and how to spot those phishing scams.
Because even the best security system won't work if someone leaves the gate open, right?
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. And then there's data encryption.
Encryption, that's like scrambling the messages so even if someone intercepts them, they can't read them.
Perfect analogy. Encrypting sensitive data, both in transit and at rest, is so important. Even if there's a breach, the data is much less valuable to attackers if it's encrypted.
Like finding a treasure chest but not having the key.
Exactly. And finally, incident response planning. No matter how good your defenses are, there's always a chance something could happen.
So you need to be prepared.
You do. Having a plan in place can help you contain the damage, recover quickly, and learn from the experience.
It's like having a fire drill, right?
That's a great analogy. Preparedness is key.
So we've talked about a lot of different strategies and tactics here, but it seems like the biggest thing is just awareness.
I agree. Cybersecurity is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time thing.
You need to stay vigilant.
And stay informed. Those cyber predators are constantly changing their tactics.
So it's an arms race.
It is. But the good news is there are lots of resources out there to help you stay ahead of the game.
Like what?
There are cybersecurity blogs, podcasts like this one, news sites, security communities.
And don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
Exactly. If you see something suspicious or you're not sure about something, reach out to your IT department or a cybersecurity professional.
Better to be safe than sorry.
Always. So, after all this, what's the one key takeaway you hope listeners will walk away with?
That's a good question.
It's a lot to take in, I know.
It is. Well, I think it's don't let fear paralyze you.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the internet is an amazing tool, but we need to approach it with caution.
And awareness.
Right. By taking steps to protect ourselves and our data, we can enjoy all the benefits of the digital world without becoming a victim.
I love that. So instead of hiding from the digital jungle,
We become savvy explorers.
equipped with the knowledge and tools we need to stay safe.
I like that.
It's an adventure out there.
That's a great note to end on.
It is.
But before we wrap up, we have one final thought-provoking question for our listeners. So as we wrap up our cybersecurity deep dive, here's something to think about.
What one step will you take today to improve your online security?
Ooh, I like that.
It could be something small, like finally changing that weak password you've been meaning to update,
Yeah, we've all got those.
or enabling multi-factor authentication on your important accounts,
That's a good one.
or even just taking a moment to really think before you click on that next tempting link.
Think before you click. Right.
Exactly. Sometimes the smallest actions can make the biggest difference when it comes to our digital safety.
It all adds up.
It really does. Every step we take makes the online world a little bit safer for everyone.
So true. Well, folks, that's it for our cybersecurity expedition.
We made it out of the jungle.
We did. We've explored the dangerous terrain, talked about the threats out there, and hopefully given you the knowledge and tools to stay safe.
And to thrive in the digital world.
Exactly. So stay vigilant out there
Stay informed.
and stay curious.
Always be learning.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been fun.